Those who work in insurance claims. What's your best you've got to be kidding me story? Not claims, but here is one I remember from working the front desk at a local agency. This one lady had over 50 towing and labor claims within a 6-month period. She would drive until she ran out of gas and then call the tow number. They would come out and give her a few gallons of gas. Then she would drive until she ran out of gas and call the number again. Rinse and repeat. After 6 months they permanently banned her from using that option. She also used to have her bill done as an automatic withdrawal. It would save her $5 on her bills if it was automatically taken out, but she would never have the money in her account, which would cause her bank to hit her with a $35 non-sufficient funds fee. Then she would call us and raise hell, trying to get us to pay the fee. I hated that woman and dreaded having to deal with her. One of my favorites. An insured hit a telephone pole, and when the police arrived, he was arrested for DUI. According to him, that was a bullshit charge because he hadn't been drinking before the accident. You see, after the accident a good Samaritan stopped to see if he was okay. The insured told this stranger that he was okay, but he was thirsty. All the stranger had was some beers, so he gave them to the insured and left. That's why he had alcohol in his system when the cops showed up. Like all other AskReddit threads, I don't work in insurance claims, but I was in the Air Force and a friend co-worker had the registration expire on his car. Driving a car on base without proper tags usually results in paperwork and a stern talking to by supervision. Not a good situation. So until he could afford to pay for it, he would drive to my house and park his car and I would give him a lift into work. For some reason, one day he parked right where my car usually turns into as I back out. Edit. This was beside my driveway, not out in the road. I didn't notice. I ended up backing into his car while he was in the passenger seat. Crunch. He had his mouth open while it was happening, but all that came out was an incoherent sputtering. We also had the same insurance company. Insurance person. So let me get this straight. You were a passenger in the vehicle that hit your parked vehicle? Are you aware that insurance fraud is a crime? Are you sure this is a story you want to go with? Fun times. Worked in it at an insurance company. Claim that made the rounds was a homeowner's policy where a guest filed a claim against the homeowner's policy because she caught gonorrhea from his 6 toys. Claim was denied. I don't work insurance claims, but work it for an insurance company and overheard someone talking about a time when they worked in the call center and their co-worker was on the line and the call went, "Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am. No ma'am, the train always has the right of way." While I was collecting insurance information from an elderly man who just rear-ended me, thus taking off my bumper, he asked if he could give my phone number to his grandson. I said no, but still got a call a month later. GRR. Edit. Whom to who? I have cold and have been hopped up on medication. Give me a break. Currently work in home claims lodgement. My favorite has got to be a call I received a few months ago. Around a decade ago. This lady took her ring into a jeweler's. One of the claws holding the stone was bent out and she wanted to get it repaired. Since the job was small, the jeweler kept the ring overnight, performed the repair and didn't charge the woman for the job when she came back to pick it up. Now, back to the present day. Lady takes her ring into a different place to get it valued. Turns out the stone is a cubic zirconia. The original jeweler swapped it out overnight, didn't charge her so there'd be no paper trail, and had since closed shop. Of course, I always wondered whether the ring was ever a diamond. Here is my insurance claim story. Sorry, I don't work in insurance claims. My mother was injured at work doing something she never should have been made to do. Her neck was hurt pretty badly and she filed for disability. Of course, they hired a private investigator who must have been so proud of himself when he snapped pictures of her carrying grocery bags, which ultimately resulted in her not getting any benefits. What he didn't see is what I remember seeing as a child. Her crying each night about the pain and hardly being able to move. With her husband gone all day and 3 small children, she did her best and at times did things that were painful out of necessity, because you bet 3 small children can't carry a household. It has been literally decades since it happened and she is still in almost constant pain. I have worked in car insurance claims for a good few years now. The funniest was a colleague took a call where the customer walked out of his front door to find a bull having sex with his car. The customer advised that he let the bull finish. I was making a claim a couple of years ago when I found my car one morning with a huge dent on the bonnet. It cracked the servo fluid reservoir underneath, so storing didn't work either. I was parked next to a 10-story building and it looked like someone dropped something on it. Called the cops, they questioned everyone. Turns out a resident's fat cat jumped off from the window of floor 9 and landed on my car. The poor fella broke a leg but survived and ran off. Now when I made a claim at the car owner's insurance company, I had to talk to dozens of people because they wouldn't believe what happened. It didn't really help either that the police report had a sketch of the incident on it. A drawing of a falling cat. My dad's a construction litigation lawyer. But close enough for this. There was a couple that had a ton of damage done to their house by a sinkhole. But they were claiming a ton of luxury items such as jewelry, fur coats, etc. that were all lost. And here's the best part, they always paid for these items in cash and they always bought duplicates. Didn't take the forensic accountant very long to figure that one out. A woman claimed that her windows were defective because they were leaking. It was condensation. A guy got a splinter walking over some boards that were covering a work site. Called an ambulance for himself. Ended up getting like $400 from the contractor. But it didn't cover his costs. I worked in claims for 2 years. The craziest one I heard was, our customer called in to report damage to their vehicle because a drunk driver hit a motorcyclist, killing him instantly. The drunk driver and the deceased were not customers of ours. Now why would our customer be calling in, you ask? Because our customer was in the opposite lane and the motorcyclist landed on our customer's car, damaging the windshield, damaging the paint and hood. Our customer was just minding their business. Another thing was that drunk driver drove a mile with the motorcycle under his car before police pulled him over and arrested him. It was one of the most ridiculous stories I'd ever heard. A 16-year-old kid got some craptastic Mustang which needed a paint job. He got a quote and realized, hey, it's kind of expensive. Ever so conveniently his car was keyed. They managed to damage every single panel while it was parked in a McDonald's parking lot during the supper rush. I actually do work in claims. We really do see some interesting things. Off the top of my head, kid speeding down a residential street while drunk, loses control and runs up onto the sidewalk. The way he hit the wall caused it to partially fall and become a ramp, which launched him into a full-on board slide along the roof of the house. Looked like something out of a video game. Bachelorette party in the days before the wedding. Maid of honor is driving the bride home. Bride is passed out wasted in backseat. Maid of honor, who is also drunk, runs a red. Bride fractures her back in multiple places. Lots of dead bodies with accompanying pictures. Had an atty file a claim against the landlord because they were bitten by a spider. Never had problems with spiders in the house or anything. We play a game called Old or Drunk. When we see an accident that is just so ducked up we have no idea how it happened, we guess if the person was old or drunk. 90% plus they are one or the other. Or both. There is more, I just can't think of them right now other than 3 standard: no one is ever at fault and everyone's light is always green. Also, attorney is alleging everything under the sun is related to our loss. Medical life insurance. My co-worker was offering orientations. An old lady stood up from the crowd and dropped dead. If she would have just waited an hour, maybe she would have signed up. Claims adjuster here. We once had a claim for a home robbery. This couple was on vacation and their 45-year-old son was house sitting. He had a heart attack on the couch in the living room, and while he was dead someone broke in and robbed the place completely clean. He was dead for 2 weeks before the parents came home and found his decomposing body and that their entire house had been gutted. Super sad. On a funnier note, we had a house fire claim, so the insureds gave us a spreadsheet with everything they were claiming and replacement prices. This couple had thousands of dollars in sex toys, and they even put on Playboys and Penthouse magazines that were 10 years old and worthless with the depreciation. I mean, I get why you'd want to claim that since it's good money, but damn was it hard to look them in the eye knowing how kinky they were. Worked in claims for a spell. Some dude was taking bong hits on the other end. I let him finish, but I laughed a lot. He actually was filing a claim because he ran into his mailbox after brunch. Have seen a guy come into Best Buy to get his cell phone replaced under the accidental protection. Apparently he had his cell phone in his shirt pocket while putting wood into a wood chipper and it fell out of his pocket into the machine. He brought in a baggie of sawdust cell phone dust. I don't think they replaced it. Usually the "you've got to be kidding me" claims are ones where I wonder how someone thought they would never get caught filing a fraudulent claim. A favorite of mine is a guy who took his giant, customized truck mudding while drinking, and against the advice of everyone he was with, drove it into a creek to, well, I'm not really sure why. His truck got stuck. The water levels rose, and he decided to just report the truck stolen. He didn't think about the fact that there were tons of witnesses and that he posted it on his Facebook. Another personal favorite was a man with supposedly $120,000 worth of gems and diamonds on his old Bentley with no proof of them ever being there besides a music video on YouTube that he swore was of his car. Most of the others are run-of-the-mill fraud. Starting a policy and filing a claim immediately for damages that occurred before it was in force. Sometimes already having received a payout from another company. Also, people with handwritten receipts for huge sums of money. Don't think we believe you. And don't have your lawyer send me a poorly written email from a fake law office from a Gmail account. I don't work in insurance claims, but I think my insurance company had a "you've got to be kidding me" moment earlier this year. I live on acreage and our property now has 2 normal houses on it. Earlier in the year, we had just finished building our second house when we had a fire in it. Brand new house which we hadn't moved into yet, just filled with furniture and appliances. Toaster caught fire. The push down thingy had been held down by the appliance cupboard door and set the kitchen on fire. Cue $200,000 insurance claim. Smoke damage through entire house. Ruined wooden floor from water putting out fire. Whole house needed to be painted. New kitchen needed with appliances etc. About 2 weeks before the firehouse had the repairs finished, the older existing house flooded. A pipe burst in the bathroom which emptied the contents of the house water tank into the house while everyone was at work. Whole house water damaged. You could almost hear the disbelief in my broker's voice when I phoned her to let her know my other house was now ruined. Sorry for any spelling errors, I'm on my mobile. Not necessarily a weird claim, but I work in centralized services for an insurance company and we have a guy who we call the breather. He calls around, waits until a lady picks up and proceeds to get his jollies off on the phone. He then calls for about an hour. Of course we all disconnect on him. We were finally able to get his number because of an updated VoIP system, and turns out he's some fancy lawyer. Real creeper. My wife works in property insurance. A story she tells was relayed to her by this guy who manned the helm during the Christmas holidays. It's the 23rd or something and he gets a call. This guy wants to insure a shipment of research monkeys. They were captured in Africa and were being sent to the US. The guy wanted to insure their travel. There's really no precedent for this. Nothing in the computer. Bosses are at home. And he doesn't want to turn down business. So he quotes it. A 5 monkey deductible. 5 monkeys have to die before the insurance kicked in. I guess the guy went for it. I always thought that would make a sweet band name. 5 monkey deductible. I've just started a couple of months ago. But already the stories are great. There was one the other day where the lady lost her upper cow's butt because she was helping it give birth. I don't know why she wasn't wearing a glove. There's always time for a glove. That one is my favorite at the moment. But quite regularly we get calls that come in right before home time, and it's something so drastic that takes so long to start that you say, "You've got to be kidding me." Didn't work insurance claims, but I did fill out reports for car accidents for a car sharing company. My favorite was this Asian guy who called in. I could hardly understand what he was saying because his accent was so thick and his English so poor. I was already able to tell that he was a new member from his account page, and I saw that it was his first reservation too. My phone line told me that he called in through the accident prompt. I could barely make out him saying "hit wall" when he thought it might be a good idea to hand the phone to his passenger. First reservation. Within hours of being approved as a member, which requires a clean record from an accident background check. Within minutes of picking up his car. And this guy doesn't even make it out of the parking garage without scraping the entire length of the car against the wall of the garage. He didn't have the damage fee waiver either. We closed his account and he got to pay a hefty fee. Felt bad for him. But good lord. How do you manage to do that? I've got a few. One is where we had a claim for theft outside of her home. This lady said she takes her jewelry everywhere she goes to avoid theft. All $20,000 of it. So she lodges a claim for theft where she had taken the jewelry and left it in her car while she was at a friend's party. She parked the car 3 blocks away in a park and left the window down. Also stolen was 2 iPads, 2 cameras, 2 iPads, and a handbag, which she didn't feel like bringing into the party. Craziest thing is when we declined her, it was overturned on some bullshit technicality and we had to pay her the claim. Guy put down on his life insurance application that he did not drink and no mention that he was being repeatedly treated for alcoholism. Later on he gets heavily drunk and drowns. I got asked to look into it for the sales department as our company was repeatedly rejecting the claim for over a year and the beneficiaries would not go away. Later on it turned out that he mentioned in the application that he was taking a particular medication for a study, but the underwriter didn't bother to look up what it was. Turns out it is only for treatment of heroin or alcohol dependence, so under local laws he had disclosed a reasonable amount of information for it to be found out. 7-figure payout. I was the one giving the unbelievable story. Was driving some mates back from a concert and went over a drain in the road. And the front right suspension of my car collapsed. Was kinda drivable. So I limped it back home. Remembered I had comprehensive. So called up my insurer and they assumed I was drunk and spent the good part of 2 months trying to get me to either admit it, prove I wasn't, or drop the claim. End result was they paid out. Very frustrating. Not an insurance worker. But just 2 days ago I had a co-worker tell me how she hit someone while backing out of her driveway and it was totally his fault. Because he was stopped at a stop sign to eat his breakfast. Yeah? Okay. Sure. Whatever you say. Even if he was eating. I'm not sure how that puts him at fault for you hitting a stationary vehicle. I heard a story. Not sure if it's true or not. There was a hailstorm that damaged a bunch of houses. An insurance assessor was visiting a house and saw the neighbor standing on his roof hitting tiles with a hammer. What are you doing? None of your ducking business. So he finished his assessment. Checked his next appointment, which was next door.